Hi guys, this is Talking Wankers, Killing Clankers. This is our new podcast series where we talk about all things Star Wars while playing Star Wars Battlefront in the background. This episode will be about the Bad Batch, episodes 1 to 3. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any feedback, please leave them in the comments below. All feedback is appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy it. What's up?
Should we maybe, like, if you're not talking, mute your mic and just have your finger on the button so you can unmute? Because otherwise, I'll be pissing myself in the background.
Well, I don't think everyone's got a PS5 though.
Well, that's just an L for them, isn't it?
Oh, well, fuck it. We're getting into it. We don't care if they haven't got.
To be poor.
Yeah, well, you and your bucket of water, you are poor.
PS5 then.
Yeah, but he's got a PS5. Yeah, you got a PS5. You had to sacrifice your water for it. Right. Anyway, first off, obviously, there's been 3 episodes of the Bad. I was forgetting what it's called now. The Bad Batch, and right, I'm gonna let Whiskey talk about something because I just want to hear his voice.
Oh.
What do you think of it, Whiskey, so far? Because you've only just watched it.
Yeah, I honestly binged it today. I'm just gonna say, if the antagonist is gonna be a clone for the entire series, it's gonna get a little boring. I love it, but I want the antagonist to be a little bigger than that. Just saying.
Talking of the clone,
too harsh right away?
That's Crosshair, isn't it? So
yeah, Crosshair.
I got a funny feeling with Crosshair. Either they're gonna get him back or whatever. But Wrecker in the 3rd episode, I don't know if Foster hasn't seen it, but Wrecker hits his head, which I think's gonna fuck with his inhibitor chip. And then you've also had, I don't think Echo's got an inhibitor chip anymore, is he?
No, I think he basically
it's inconclusive, isn't it? But he's just like messed up.
But if he has got one, he was also smashed over the head with that dinner tray. You know, in the bar fight thing.
True.
Well, not bar fight,
yeah, but even then, Echo's like.
At this point, I think he's not human, so like it only affects if you're human. I'm guessing, and so it's still there, maybe just not active.
Yeah, I would imagine the Separatists would have taken that out though.
He's not entirely human, is he? And sort of Tech did like a nice little throwback line to the original trilogy when he said, "You're more machine than man."
Oh yeah.
If you remember that from the first episode.
Yeah.
But on the inhibitor chips, because I've only seen halfway through the 3rd episode. I thought that Wreckers was maybe fucking up. I didn't pay attention. I didn't think he actually hit his head. I thought maybe his inhibitor chip was activating. I just wonder where that's going to go.
I agree with Foster on this. Is you never actually saw him hit his head on screen. I don't remember that, unless I'm wrong. But I don't actually remember seeing him hitting his head. So there might be something fucking with it. Yeah. Because he just came over with head pain. He never actually hit his head.
Yeah. Well, he hit it when he was crash landing, right?
Yeah. Well, I think he did. I don't know, on the side of the thing that goes over the safety harness thing.
He did.
But
do you think it's a red herring? They're just doing that to make it feel like that, and then really it's just. I reckon he's
gonna turn. They're going to take him down somehow, and then somehow remove his inhibitor chip or tie him up until someone can remove it. And then they're going to figure out, obviously, it's not Crosshair's fault, and then they're going to try and save Crosshair, I'm guessing. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't go back to Camino.
I hope that they do this early, so that Crosshair, like I said, I just don't want Crosshair to be the main antagonist the entire
I don't think he will be. I think it's going to be maybe even well, actually, there was something I wrote down. The clone, what's her name? Nala C, or whatever, the one that looks after Omega. She was saying that Jango Fett's DNA was fading. I think it was her, or was it the Prime Minister? I can't remember. One of them was saying.
I think it was in discussion between both, wasn't it? They both mentioned it at some point in episodes.
They said Jango Fett's DNA was fading, and I was sitting there thinking. I remember playing. They also said that they needed to keep themselves in business with the Empire for their survival. That leads me to think that's going to connect into maybe the Mandalorian or the Last Jedi and stuff with Snoke, or maybe even Starkiller. Do you remember? From The Force Unleashed, where they cloned. I can't remember who they cloned.
I can't remember his name either.
Galen Merrick, was it?
Not canon though anymore, is it, Starkiller?
No, but they could be bringing it into canon. But obviously they'd have to change a lot. He couldn't be as powerful as he was in The Force
That's the
Unleashed.
thing, because they did bring it in The Mandalorian. They brought in the the Dark Troopers, and they weren't canon up until that series. So if they were to explore elements like that, that'd be, this series would be the perfect opportunity for them to do so.
Yeah. Also, talking with the
What a segue to Death
Mandalorian,
Troopers.
that
Oh, go ahead,
Doctor, the Doctor in the Mandalorian had the Kaminoan patch on.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so
Oh,
it
yeah.
might tie into all of that. I don't know how, but it might.
Oh,
And actually,
it's got to,
come to think of it, he has pretty similar glasses to Tech, but I don't think he's a clone.
Yeah, I don't think, and you've got to remember that the Kaminoans in canon see themselves as like elitists. So
Yeah.
he was probably just kind of some sort of, he was wearing a Kaminoan patch, but he was either like a subdivision. I don't think he would have been working directly under the Kaminoans, because they think like humans and that are inferior, don't they?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They do. So, what do you think is going to happen with the clones and stuff? As in, obviously, we know they're going to get phased out and turn into stormtroopers, and to some extent, with comics, we know that the clone commanders like Cody and obviously Crosshair at the moment are the ones that trained the first wave of stormtroopers. But how do you think it's going to go in terms of how it's going
they
to
gonna basically phase them out?
Yeah.
I think what they're going for is, in the third episode they mentioned that because the Fett DNA is going, they need one of the Bad Batch, and the way they made it sound was like they wanted Omega. That's the reason that she was on Kamino, because they want to clone her because she seems to have the abilities of kind of all of them. So in the last episode, episode 3, we saw her use Hunter's tracking skills. In the first episode, or it might have been the second, when she shot Crosshair's gun out of his hand, that's kind of a sharpshooter move when she'd never picked up a blaster before. So she's already demonstrated 2 of the squad's skills.
Right.
So I think that they want to clone her, and they're going to fail in getting her back, and that's why they're going to shut down the cloning program, because the Kaminoans failed to get the person whose DNA they want back.
Well, I don't.
But if I could jump in on that, the thing is, we don't fully know who Omega is at this point, do we? I haven't seen the entirety of episode 3, but I'm assuming, but the theories are, like, one that I have, and I know that a lot of people have, is that she is of, a strand of Fett's DNA, but just a female clone. But when they say that, the Fett DNA is fading out, obviously, if you clone a clone, you'll end up with 99. You'll end up with a defective clone.
It's kind of like photocopying,
so many times you can copy a copy. Exactly, yeah. So, and that's one of the main reasons I think that the clones were sort of phased out of the sort of the Imperial Army, because there weren't any more, and they were getting more and more defective. So, I think getting a hold of the Bad Batch and cloning them would prove to be a bit futile for the Empire, which is why they brought in the elite troopers that Crosshair's now training.
Well, it could be a bit of both then, because they definitely mentioned in episode 3, I don't know whether you've seen that bit then yet, Oscar, but they definitely mentioned that they need the Bad Batch for their DNA, or they definitely referenced it.
Understand.
And I think that's because maybe they can do something with that, because they're defective, but they Hunter's got his unique skills. They all have their unique skills, so if they can extract DNA from those clones and implement such skills into willing sort of participants, they can make enhanced troopers. They can have troopers that are excellent at hunting or excellent at tech, or like really strong and powerful, like Wrecker. I think that's the reason they want their DNA, but they definitely couldn't make a clone army from them.
Well, I've read some of the comics. I can't remember what it was called. I think it's something of the Republic. But the canon, I reckon this is probably going to end up tying into the show and actually be made canon again, because I think it is now Legends. But the Kaminoans actually did end up turning on the Empire, and they created their last batch of clones to fight the Empire. They eventually did lose. But
that was a fight on Camino, right?
Yeah, so it's called the Battle of Camino. Yeah.
That was in Star Wars Battlefront 2, wasn't it? The original.
Yeah. So
when you had the 501st go and scrap them.
Yeah, so you had they had a few ARC troopers and bits and bobs in there, but I think we probably will end up seeing that because of that Nala C woman, the one that looked after Omega, the Kaminoan. She let Omega go. She undone the hangar door and let them escape. Obviously, she knows the importance of Omega's DNA, so maybe she didn't want Omega to be harmed because a Crosshair would have killed her, probably. So, as you can
Right. Not
see
necessarily
from
that she agrees with the clones. She just has her own agenda and wants to
yeah,
keep her safe, type deal.
exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. I don't think she necessarily cares for the Empire or the Republic. I think it's obviously more of a money thing, but she also don't want her little project being damaged. If you know what I mean, like,
Yeah, because it's a bit like they as I mentioned before they're
Daughter.
like the elite, aren't they?
yeah,
And it's almost like Omega's probably like a pet now at that point where she's been with her the whole time. It's like, and especially there's probably some ulterior motives in the fact that if Omega gets harmed, that could potentially be the future of their cloning program in jeopardy because of that's my theory.
well, yeah. I think definitely there's something more with that Nala. I reckon she's going to end up being killed. Maybe we'll even see Darth Vader or something in his new armor. You know, come down onto Camino
Right.
and try and sort out
See,
the.
that's another question. Is the Jedi? Like, are we going to see any more? Are we going to snip Kenobi? Like, are they going to show
Well,
anybody?
Well,
the thing is, we
that's the
can't
thing.
have too many.
We saw Kanan
Right.
Jarrus, didn't we, as a Padawan at the very beginning. So
Who sounded like
whether
a
we see
40-year-old
him or
man.
whether that was just whether well he did,
That
but
person was a
whether
pet
we
cat
see
with
him
her.
anymore or whether that was just a bit of fan service is sort of up to debate right now. But I don't know. Personally, I don't want to see too many Force sensitives. I don't want the Force to be explored too much in this series,
Agreed.
because they did it quite subtly in The Mandalorian and then sort of delved more deeply into it, of course, because of the child. But this is about, at least right now, the
Clones.
Bad Batch, the clones, and the
Yeah.
Kaminoans, and the sort of the relationship between the militants and the Empire and the armies produced. And I want that to be explored. It's sort of like Rogue One as a film. It was all about the ground troops and what was going on with the little people.
I'm glad you brought that up because at the end of Rogue One, everyone had to die because we know they're not in the next movies. I mean, I think they got to kill them off at the end, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They've got to die. It wouldn't make sense for them to carry on because where do they go? They're not in Rebels. They're not in the
Yeah.
Mandalorian. They're not in the original
Yeah.
trilogy. They must die.
If those guys were still around during the time of New Hope or before then, they should have been Rogue One. You know, they would have done that mission.
Or
So
maybe they were the
absolutely,
Boffin spies. I guess I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, because you could argue that the way they worked Rex into canon in Return of the Jedi, didn't they? They actually made his character in Rebels
Yeah,
look like that
on
guy from
Endor.
Return
Yeah,
of the Jedi.
That's
So
true.
technically, it was canon that he was at that part. So they could probably do the same with them and just say they were
Let's go
somewhere
through
else
the
if they
OG
don't.
trilogy, look for some big hulking dude, and call him. That's Wrecker.
I think they'll probably end up dying saving Omega, and Omega's going to have some important role. I think maybe even she'll be the one that has her DNA spliced with
Wait.
maybe even Palpatine or something, and that's how Rey comes about. It could even go that far. I don't know because of
Damn.
if obviously we
Yeah,
know
but
that
then surely Ray
Palpatine
would
was
be
cloned.
Australian.
Well, your accent is based on who you're near, isn't it? So like, just because she's got a New Zealand accent, it doesn't actually necessarily mean that she's actually a clone of the clones. I mean, she is, but well, she seems to be. Um, I've heard people say she's got a bit of Palpatine. She's got similar hair to Palpatine, but that seems just stupid. But I don't know.
Yeah, nah. It'd be too
I
much
Yeah,
of a
really
giveaway.
hope that everyone isn't related to that
no.
It'd be
emperor,
so.
because now
It's
Ray's
already
related to
Well,
dumb.
I
him.
mean, they need to do something to try and fix the sequel trilogy, though, don't they? Like, as in, I mean, the
I,
sequel
I
trilogy
don't know.
might be beyond repair, but there might be stuff that they can do to make it less of a stake
See,
More
in the heart.
tie-ins, so it's
Yeah,
the
not like a
thing
leap
is,
of.
is that this is something that is widely appreciated by pretty much anyone who sort of respects filmmaking. Is if your films have to rely on third-party media to substantiate their narrative, or even sort of make them of good quality, because the films themselves were so awful without comics or books to expand upon it, then that means your films are so bad. I don't
yeah, that's
think that they
true.
should
Yeah,
tie too much into the sequels. It'd be nice to sort of have hints or subtle references to, like, what's his name, Snoke clones, and Camino
Mm-hmm.
cloning. Make that connection, but don't directly go into it, if that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
the Mandalorian did that. We saw those cloning tubes, or
That's
at
why I
least
think
what we
it's
thought was snow clones.
yeah.
But I don't think they should go
That makes the
into it
most sense.
too much in this series.
That makes the
I
most sense
think
though. It's tied to the Mando cloning because that is
you
just
know
some
what
kind
they
of
could
vague
tie into.
program.
Referencing the movies directly, or at least the sequels, because that the sequels are quite far off in the timeline. It'd be a bit silly for them to reference the sequels this early on, but they could easily reference or sort of hint toward things that happen in the Mandalorian, like the Dark Troopers. Those Dark Troopers that we saw in live action were Phase 3. They no longer had human counterparts within
Yeah.
the exoskeleton. We could
Mhm.
see the development of Phase 1 or Phase 2 Dark Troopers. Maybe these Elite Troopers or Crosshair or any of the Bad Batch, like Wrecker, for example, their DNA could be taken and troopers could be enhanced, and then the development of those exoskeletons could be
So you think
could
those are
begin.
Death Troopers?
Well,
They're
I was
introducing
They
thinking.
could be Death
not Inferno
Troopers.
Squad. I
I
thought it was
was.
Inferno Squad,
I was
but
genuinely
So did
thinking.
I.
It'll
I
be good
thought
either
Inferno
way.
Squad at first
I
because
thought it was like a
that
nod to
woman.
Iden.
Yeah.
They even had like a.
It did
It's
look like
obviously not
Iden.
her. I
It
think
did
Iden would be
look
too
like
young,
her.
but it did look like her, which could be like a nod to it.
What was that guy's name? In Star's Battlefront's campaign, you know the officer, the Admiral Versio, but I can't remember his name. His first name.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know who I'm talking about, though, right? The Admiral
Mhm.
guy, Aiden's dad. Well, he
Yeah.
must have some relevance into something in this show because we haven't really seen, or at least Inferno Squad in general, because it's sort of hinting that way. A special squad of stormtroopers. Well,
It's Garrick, isn't it?
yeah,
I
Garrick.
think.
That's it. Yeah, Garrick. Yeah. Um,
Admiral. Yeah.
yeah. But I don't. I was sitting there looking at Crosshair's armor, and to me that looks very Death Trooper. That's what I think, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Although,
mean,
More
when we
so than
look at
Inferno.
the actual Elite Troopers, they do have the green visors and the black paint,
That's
so
what I
they
was
look
thinking.
like
Yeah.
early versions.
you
Hard
are
man.
right. They could be the Phase One of the what are they called again? The
Death or dark.
Dark Troopers. That's it. Phase One of the Dark Troopers. They could be the beginning of that, but I don't think Crosshair's going to stay like that for long. But I do think he's going to have to die now after him killing civilians and stuff, because I don't think they're going to
I
keep
think
Do you
him
know what?
around.
Again, I haven't seen the end of episode 3, but again, I don't mind the spoilers because I'll watch it after this. I think that Crosshair's one of those characters where he's now caught in the crossfire. His team wants him back, but his inhibitor chip is so strong, he's also now working for the Empire more so than others. I think at the end of it all, when they come to loggerheads again, him and his team, maybe he's going to turn around and take shots at his own men and the stormtroopers, and just sort of like a last-ditch effort to allow his team, if they're caught in a sticky situation, to escape. And he'll get
Yeah.
gunned
Davey, what
down
do
in
you
the
think?
process.
David,
Oh,
thoughts?
He's still
yeah, I
eating his
kind of agree with
chicken.
Foster saying that. I finished it. It's just yeah, I agree with kind of Foster in the situation where he's in that little crosshair, or cross little fire little situation where he has to like choose between following orders or helping his friends. Probably add a
Yeah.
little plot
Al-
twist to it.
I kind of
Almost
agree
like
with that,
a
actually. I think he's
an,
going
an,
to.
an
Or
Makes
Anakin
sense.
Palpatine Mace
I
Windu situation. Like, you
Yeah.
must choose, sort of thing.
But I
Yeah.
don't think they're going to take his chip out.
Help me,
I think he's going to do the right thing with the chip in, and it's going
I'll
to
be back in a
result in
minute.
him dying. That's what I think.
Maybe that's why they have to get rid of the
yeah,
clones because
I
even with chips, they can
Yeah,
still their loyalty to each
yeah.
other overrides.
Because
I think that's how.
obviously we know that Tarkin prefers recruits, right? Because he was even saying that obviously a recruit, they've enlisted, so they've got a purpose to be in the Empire, so they're probably more loyal. I mean, the clone troopers are loyal to a fault, into the point in which they
Yeah.
literally follow command. They're so dangerous, like that. They executed Order 66 without question. Imagine what they could do if they were programmed to do something against the Emperor, or an admiral, or so the chip would go wrong and they just shot
Yeah.
people by accident, didn't they? Like, I think it was in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that
Tap.
Jedi General was called, but yeah, he shot the Jedi General, just walked up behind her and shot in the back of the head. Their chips can go
Yeah.
wrong, so they're unpredictable. Um,
interesting that you say that because I think in one of the comics, I can't remember which one it is, but there's like a surviving Jedi, and he actually realizes that he can use Order 66 to turn the clones that against like the generation of stormtroopers that have just
Oh
come in,
shit!
and then he sort of uses that to escape.
Oh, that's interesting.
Damn, son.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
maybe we
kind of
could
want to look
see
into
something
that.
like that.
That's dope.
I know there was order. I think it might have been 67, or I could be wrong. I don't remember what order it was, but there was an order
It
in
was
which,
67.
yeah, where it was to kill the Chancellor Palpatine,
Yeah.
and the reason they put that order in there was to make it less suspicious. So, for example, if you had say, for example, the Jedi looked at the list of orders. They would go through and go, oh, there's one here to kill the Jedi. Oh, but there's also one here to kill the Chancellor in case of a corruption or something. Do you know what I mean? So, like, it masked it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I just dipped for a few minutes. I hear we're talking about the list of orders.
Yeah, from KFC
Yeah.
that David got.
Oh, right.
No,
Brilliant.
Yeah.
no,
Two number nines. Number nine large.
But I also do think that that woman, I'm not saying it is Iden, but I think that there is a possibility because she didn't have any voice lines either, which is quite interesting. The rest of them said something, but the fact that they
yeah,
left her voice unknown makes it seem as if they're hiding some sort of
Which one
identity.
was it?
she was the
The
girl.
woman?
Yeah, the girl that was part of the. And this, I don't know if it is her because I didn't. Don't want to bring race or anything into it, but she's more darker skinned, as in she's more like a Latino, if you know what I mean. And
But I
that
mean,
girl was
it
pale.
does. And I guess the other thing is the blaster that she was using was different to the TL50.
Yeah,
I
but the
guess if you want to be
TL50
really,
was an Imperial weapon, wasn't it? So it would have been
that's
designed
true.
afterwards.
And also, it doesn't really match up in the way that they look necessarily because think about it. Operation Cinder is how many, what, almost 20 years in the future from that
Yeah,
point.
so she would have been a
So
lot older.
obviously, Iden would look a bit older by that point. She
Yeah.
wouldn't look
Yeah,
that
but I
sort of
don't think
age.
she looks. I
I
don't think
think
she
in the
looks young
book,
in that.
yeah, in the book, I think she's in her 20s or something like that. She never knew the Republic. I don't think.
Then maybe not.
So maybe not. Yeah. Because if you look in the game, you know you got the DLC. I can't remember what the DLC was called, but she got her daughter. She looked maybe I'd look like she was in her 50s then. So and that was into the
Yeah.
First Order.
What if it's potentially Iden's mum?
Possibly. Yes, possibly.
That'd make more
That
sense.
that could be the link,
Yeah.
and
I
See.
thought
that's
that
why
guy.
Did Iden's mum know the Republic? She must have done.
she must have.
Uh,
But yeah, if
She would have
Iden
been quite a
knew
bit
yeah.
younger.
chronologically,
She
surely.
must have known unless Big Garrick was doing stuff with underage people. So
Yeah. Big up,
Ooh.
Gary.
I thought what's his name, the inscripted guy who died was gonna have a bigger role. I thought he was gonna be some character that we knew about, like Garrick or somebody. But
On the
Can
topic
I
he
of
did.
mention the
characters,
balls of that conscripted character? Fucking hell. Like, to
The
stand up to
ball?
Crosshair. No, the fact that he stood up
Oh yeah,
and started talking
oh,
smack
in the ship.
to a
Yeah.
the guy has
oh
some
clone.
yeah.
balls, man.
To
Yeah,
a
but it was.
clone.
They all. It seemed the way they made it seem as though enlisted do not like clones, and maybe that's also why another reason they
I
were
mean,
phased
that's
out. They
true
just
though,
couldn't
in a
work together.
sense.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true in a sense, because clones didn't like enlisted people because the clones thought they were the better version, more efficient version. And the same thing goes for the enlisted. They thought they were the better version, more efficient version. It's just they had the exact same idea about each other. Just they just conflicted it,
And
which
see,
is dumb in
the
a weird way.
the dichotomy between the two of them is that that enlisted person, the ballsy one who stood up to Crosshair, but he was also on about when they were in their sort of, what was it called, barracks or whatever, how the Republic never did anything for him, so he has this resentment toward the Republic, but now
Yeah.
the Empire's given him a roof and food and whatever, and obviously everyone
Yeah, I
knows
don't
that the
get that.
clones were part of the Republic Army, so no wonder he's got this innate dislike toward Crosshair and
Well,
the other Regs.
I would imagine that guy would have been from a separatist system or
Yeah,
Most
or
likely.
something
yeah,
along the
perhaps.
lines, or maybe even a neutral system like Tatooine or something.
The droid attack on the Wookiees.
Yeah, that can't be Iden Versio. I did just look up on Wikipedia, but
Wikipedia.
yeah, on Wikipedia it says that Iden was born during the reign of the Empire, so that couldn't have been her. That could be her
Well
mum though.
then, that could be her mum.
On
That's
on
quite
the
an interesting
topic of
theory.
other characters from all sorts of Star Wars media, how do we feel about, I don't know, like OT or prequel character sort of references? You know, references to Leia, Luke, Obi-Wan,
I hope they do it.
even if we don't see them.
I think they
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
to be in
Yeah,
there
I
because
think
it's the bridging the gap thing. You know what I mean?
I think we're
Because
gonna see Vader.
Rebels did that. We saw some holograms of Anakin and Obi-Wan in Rebels.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
I
I don't
don't
think
think
it'll
there'll
be
be
Luke,
any.
but
I don't
I
think there'll
think
be
it'll
any
be
Luke or
Leia.
Leia because at this point they're just like unknown to anyone really, aren't they?
they're
Um,
children also. Yeah, they're babies,
Yeah.
so they'll be
Well, Senator
basically newborn at
Organa.
that point. Yeah, that's true. You could
Organa
probably
might
see
Yeah,
show
some.
up.
Vale.
I would say this though. I don't think it actually could even be Iden's mum. Come to think from the campaign of Battlefront, didn't they say something about Iden's mum being an artist and she painted like the Empire's propaganda or something like that?
Yeah, again,
I don't
but I
remember.
feel like you guys jumping too hard on Iden here. I get
Yeah.
the idea what you want to do, but it's not the right thing.
Too much of a
Yeah,
stretch.
Also,
Yeah,
Iden's not, in my
I
opinion,
don't
she's
think
not a very
Iden's not a
focal
possibility.
character anyway. She's not
No,
brilliant. You know,
no,
she was
she's
part of
not.
more of a
the Battlefront
game.
2's game
I thought she
campaign,
was kind
but
of
not
cool.
really that interesting.
I think
thank you,
she's
Whiskey.
cool until she turned.
Agreed.
Yeah, but
Yes.
Whiskey, that's because you play shooter heroes in Battlefront 2. Of course you're super pro Iden.
I hate Iden in Heroes Villains, but yeah, I think she's just cool. She was cooler when she was evil. I wish the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a whole different subject,
Well, she
man. But
wasn't
I
even
wish.
evil. She was just
Right.
brainwashed. Like she genuinely thought what
Following
she was
orders.
doing was good. But anyway,
Yeah.
back onto Bad Batch. Where was we? What was we talking about?
I think we were switching
We jumped
topics.
on such a hard tangent of Bad Batch. It was insane.
Blake, what did you think?
I have been staying out of the conversation because I haven't watched it, so
Good man.
I'm not
No,
sure.
this is good. This is good. I appreciate
Okay.
that.
I
Tell you
think
Like a
this,
topic that
one thing I do want to
something
talk
about
about.
episode 3 from what... No, sorry, mate,
God,
carry
man.
on.
Are you sure?
Yeah, go.
Was how dark like the tone is. I really like
Oh my
it.
god, yeah.
I really enjoy how dark it is. Like it's
Yeah.
brutal. Like it genuinely is brutal in the sense of like what they're doing, and I really enjoy how they're kind of developing and looking into that side of things.
Yeah. Look at the murder scene in episode 3.
Yeah, I mean they're
I
not
like
exactly
it.
just pandering to kids, are they? That's the
Yeah,
thing.
I
Especially
like
with
it a
like
lot.
the flamethrowers and stuff like they're just out
Oh
here
my
committing
god.
war crimes.
Oh,
For real.
but it's. I
as
think it's
much as it,
also.
What's David? Sorry.
I was gonna say, as much as it gets gruesome and it kind of screwed up, that episode 3 was, it was freaking sick. The
Yeah,
scene
it
of
was
Oh
how
yeah.
awesome.
you just systematically take out people and then no prisoners at the end, and then still no prisoner against his own troops. It's just like,
But it's all. I also
God.
enjoyed how,
Yeah.
as like David said, I really enjoyed how dark it was. But I also enjoyed how, even though it was so dark, at the end when Crosshair like basically shot the guy for not shooting the people, like the civilians, it
Yeah.
kind
Oh,
of
dude.
shows that even though
Badass.
the Empire are the bad guys, like they're not the bad guys in their eyes, if
They're
that
not.
makes sense. So they're not bad guys, but they're just on the
Yeah.
side of the coin
I
where
may
they
be
think what
bad
they're
guy,
doing is right.
but I'm not bad guy.
Exactly, because that's exactly,
Basically,
and I thought it's really interesting to see that.
in their eyes, that they're the heroes of the story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone's a
That's
hero
just
of
Yeah.
them
usually how
story,
it
I
is.
guess.
Yeah.
Unless you're Sheev Palpatine. And you're just getting
Palpatine
off
then.
on murdering Jedi.
Yes. Eh,
Well, another thing we
unnecessary.
can talk about actually is Rampart. I don't know if you know who that is. The officer that was
Yeah.
talking
Yeah, is he
Oh,
supposed
to.
Yeah.
to be important?
He's got to be important, but I don't understand where he ties in. Obviously, he's one of
Right.
the people that wants to change from clones to normal soldiers, or at least he seems to want clones to lead and then soldiers to follow, if that makes sense. So the clones
Yeah.
still
I
have a job
guess.
until they phased out. But where does he tie in? Does he die? Is he going to be in A New Hope? Is he going to be in Rogue? Well, he's not in Rogue
I
One, but
I just want to know
I
why
guess
he's
he's
so
like
angry.
I think he's just a recruiter, honestly, and just doesn't like the
Some
clones.
something that I remember hearing in the episode, I could be wrong, was War Mantle? I think it was. Was it an
Yeah,
order?
Project
Yeah.
War
Operation?
Mantle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, War Mantle is one of the projects mentioned in Rogue One. I don't know if you guys remember. While Jyn Erso is scanning the Imperial records at the end, while she's looking for Project Stardust. Which I quite like, because there's all these different orders or projects in Rogue One, and now War Mantle, as we know, is the effort to replace clones with human soldiers. It's those sort of references which sort of bridge the gaps in the universe that I quite like. In the same way that, what was it? The creatures from the moon that they crashed on.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bad
Diana.
Batch, yeah,
Is it Diana? No, that's the thing, the water thing, isn't it?
Moon Dragon or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Moon
Moon
Yeah,
Dragon.
Dragon.
no, it was the Auto Moon Dragon. I
Yeah,
mean, that was sort of like referencing two sort of different things. Obviously, like the Minox in
that's it.
the
Minox.
sort of
That's what I was
creature
thinking
from
of.
The Empire Strikes Back. They both eat electricity. Sort of one pops up on the what's it called, the windshield of the ship, scaring Omega in the same way it did Leia. But also, the Auto Moon Dragon shares its name with the Canderous Ordo, a Mandalorian mercenary from the Knights of the Old Republic video game. I don't know if you guys
What?
sort of, yeah,
Damn, son.
that's
I did
something that I
research,
picked up
baby.
on.
I
I'm
didn't
just
know
a bit
that.
of an nerd.
No, I didn't know
All I
that.
know is I like the creature from the arena from Clone Wars, the movie, or Attack of the
Oh
Clones.
yeah. I can't remember what that thing's called, but I know what you're on about. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
that
the
thing was freaky.
the thing that scratches Padme.
Yeah.
Ah,
So do you think the tie-ins are done now that the first 2-3 episodes are over? They're done getting people hooked on like the old nostalgia, and now they're just doing new stuff.
I
Because
don't think
truth
so. I
is,
think it's going to carry on tying in towards maybe I think it's going to go maybe even up to Rogue One, or it might set up towards the Kenobi show. Maybe.
can we at least see some Bothans, please? I want to see a Bothan. For the love of God, I've been waiting how long since the Star Wars Battlefront 2
Yeah,
2005
the
game?
many
Boffin
many
spies,
Bothans
them
died to get us this
dog-looking
information.
things.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
just want to see one.
it could even tie into Rebels just by like looking at the timeline of it, because Rogue
Yeah.
One's set just before A New Hope, so
That's true.
what's it called?
Yeah,
Rebels is closer to
Well,
the Bad Batch,
well,
so
I
it'd
mean,
just be a bit easier to tie in, maybe.
you could
Yeah.
be
No,
right,
Kane and
mate,
Jarrus did do
because
it in that first episode. Yeah.
I
yeah,
don't know
because
a
we have
lot
Kanan
about Rebels.
Jarrus, but also Tarkin is the Imperial Governor. Now, he went on to govern the Outer Rim territories, including Lothal, which is the setting for much of Rebels. So, I don't know, there is opportunity, because we do seem to be following Tarkin quite a lot, almost as much as we do the actual Bad Batch. So, if we get to see his journey and what he does in the early days of the Empire, then maybe we'll get to see him travel to Lothal. And we'll get to see familiar
Yes.
locations which we see in
That's
Rebels.
that's a good point. Didn't Tarkin land a ship on some people?
It wouldn't
Tarkin
surprise
doesn't
me.
care.
Fuck yeah. Anyway,
Tarkin
I've not
doesn't
seen Rebels,
care.
but I've heard
Princess
people talk
Leia.
about it. Princess Leia.
Leia.
Just Leia.
S-
You know
I,
they told that. What's his name? I forget. Famous guy. Whatever.
May
I
Actor
know they
feel
told him
far
how to
away.
pronounce it, and he's like, "No, it's Leia."
Wait,
Princess
what?
Leia. What's the actor who played
Billy.
Tarkin's name? What was
oh,
the original actor? Peter
Oh,
Cushing,
what was
yeah.
it?
right?
Yeah, Peter Cushing.
You know they were like, Mr. Cushing, it's actually Leia. Princess Leia. I
I
think
think
this
I
was a
actually like
British
the way
coming
he
out.
says it. I like the way he says it. I think it
Because it
adds
Yeah.
to his
ties in with
character.
his sort of demeanour and yeah,
Yeah.
and sort of his own voice. Peter Cushing and Sir Christopher Lee were like best friends.
I did
Mm.
read something
Christopher
about
Lee
that. Yeah.
sort of played Count Dooku, for those of you who can't sort of tie the name to the actor. They were like
Joe
best mates,
Biden.
which I think is brilliant. Don't
Um,
insult
Yeah,
Christopher
but
Lee
Did you
like that.
know
Come
as
on.
plus,
well that
you gotta talk about
Tarkin,
count.
through most of the scenes, is actually wearing slippers?
What?
That's
No, you're
true.
He
kidding.
just didn't give
No,
a
that's
fuck.
true. He was wearing slippers. That's why a lot of the time you actually don't see his shoes. And when you do see his shoes, he's obviously not wearing slippers. But yeah, in the first film, he was wearing slippers.
He just
That's
said, fuck
amazing.
it.
Just want it to be extremely comfortable. I don't disagree with
Must
them
have been a
there.
bit
He was
off-putting,
rocking his Crocs, baby.
though.
And putting in
I'm gonna
sport mode
rock
as
out with
well.
your
And
croc
then
out.
saying,
um,
Do you think we're going to see much of the Death Star being constructed? Because obviously we only saw the bare bones of that at the very end of Star Wars Episode 3. And we got to see young
that's
Tarkin
true.
next to Palpatine and Vader overlooking the
Oh yeah.
construction of it. So, I don't know, maybe if it isn't over hologram, he travels up into outer space just to sort of commune with Darth Vader or Palpatine. or even just onto one of the Death Stars circling, onto the Star Destroyers circling the Death Star. So we might get to see its construction like we did in Rogue One.
I will say
Are
this:
there multiple
if
seasons of
anyone,
this show? No.
if anyone's no, this is going to be a one-time thing. I think. If if we do see the Death Star, it would either have to be from an Imperial perspective, or it's going to be from maybe a Bad Patch perspective, but they will have to die shortly after because nobody knows of the Death Star. So if they
Right.
do figure it out, they will have to die soon after.
I mean,
And
maybe that's
therefore,
where Vader could come in. Like, he could be sent to sort of deal with them personally because,
yeah,
as you said, the
you
Death
might be
Star
right.
project can't get out to
Oh shit.
like rebels
But
and
also, we
That'd be
might
too
get to
cool.
see characters in animated form that we see in Rogue One, like Galen Erso,
That's
for
true.
instance. Because as we know, before the events of Rogue One, he was one of the main engineers who worked on the Death Star, and much was
We do see
achieved with
Saw
his
Gerrera,
efforts.
so.
Yeah, and we get to see Saw Gerrera, but
We
we've
see
seen him
Saw
in,
quite
was
a
it
lot.
Rebels or Clone
Yeah,
Wars?
and Clone Wars. Yeah, both.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think you might be onto something there when you say from an Imperial perspective, or maybe
Yeah,
in the very last moments of the show from the Bad Batch.
yeah. It would, or it'd have to be someone so insignificant that they wouldn't really understand what they're looking at. Do you know what I mean? As in, for it to get out, it'd have to be
Rex
maybe
has got to
this
be in it.
Rex. We did
Yeah,
see him in the
he
trailer.
is. He
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, he's in the trailer.
My
Oh,
favorite thing about that, by the way, with Rex is that in episode 2 of the Bad Batch, Cut literally says, "Yeah, Rex was here."
right. I love
Yeah.
that. He was there a few
We
days
I
ago.
love that.
Nice.
Yeah,
we did.
I
It
love how
makes you
Rex
feel like
was
you're
just
back.
there.
I did hear something. I don't know if this is true. I don't have a source for it. I can't remember where I heard it. But apparently, we are supposed to be seeing pretty much all of the characters from the Clone Wars that are still alive. Apparently, I don't know if that's
I would
true.
love to see Kenobi.
Yeah, which means
You
we'll be
would.
seeing people like Kenobi, Bail
Rex.
Organa, Yoda, Rex, loads of other clones, Cody. You'd see maybe Wolf, because I
I
know.
think they
It
should
would be
show how Gregor and Wolf get together with Rex and remove their chips.
It'd be,
it would be
Oh yeah,
quite
Um,
that's what I
well,
want to know too,
maybe
man.
that's who they go to help with Wrecker or Crosshair.
yeah, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Maybe Rex removes Wrecker's chip because he knows where the chip is because they removed his.
Yeah,
Got to. Okay, that makes the most sense.
yeah, that's
Therefore,
true.
do you think, because last time we saw Rex in the Clone Wars, he was with Ahsoka,
So,
and we know
No,
they part ways.
they split
They
up.
split
Yeah,
up. Yeah.
They split up, of course. But do you think we'll get to see those sorts of characters? Because I don't know. If we saw Kenobi in this series, I would be excited, but also a little bit disappointed because there was, he
He's not supposed to
disappears
leave
for the longest
Tatooine.
time
Yeah,
until
yeah,
Rebels. So I don't really want
but
to see him. But Ahsoka, I'm for that. That'd be quite nice to see her before the
Yeah.
events of Rebels.
Soska makes sense.
Who's to say they won't go to Tatooine though? The outer
That's
rim to
true.
do something. Seek the
That's
by
Hutt
the
or
way,
true.
something.
Rim.
Huts are always involved, man.
well, I mean,
at the beginning,
But
at the beginning, someone said something about Kanan Jarrus coming back in Bad Batch, but I think he won't because when he was in Rebels and he found Rex, Gregor, and Wolf, he basically still had the trauma and almost killed them. So I think he doesn't trust clones, and we won't see them anymore.
Yeah, that's a good. That's actually a
yeah,
very good
that's a
point.
good point. Yeah. Unless he does encounter clones again, they're good, and then maybe they end up turning on him. I don't know.
Uh,
I have no
Yeah,
idea.
then yeah, but when he told the story to Ezra, he told the story about his general being killed, his master being killed
Yeah,
by the soldiers they fought side by side with. So I think that's the trauma he's gonna have. So he won't encounter clones until then.
also, if you
that's a
think
good
back
point.
to when Kanan was fighting, what's it called the my brain's having a brain fart. I think Sith,
you got really quiet, David. What
Inquisitor,
do you say?
the Grandmaster, I think Inquisitor.
who the
You know what I'm talking
Inquisitor?
about? Yeah,
Yeah, the
when he's
Grand
fighting,
Inquisitor.
Kanan's fighting him. Yeah, and the Inquisitor says, what was the last words your master said to him? And he, Kanan's kind of forced to remember back to it in the Clone Wars.
So you think he's
So
basically
yeah,
done? He's like, fuck this.
he's I think he's fully kind of PTSD'd out. There's no way there.
Wait a second.
Didn't
Is
Kanan
it?
Jarrus disconnect himself from the Force a little bit?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
did.
he has.
Yeah.
Because he had to in a sense.
Yeah, it's
He
the
had to
same
hide
as Cal
himself, didn't he?
Kestis. Yeah, it's the same as Cal from
Uh-huh.
what's it called, Jedi Fallen Order.
Jedi Fallen Order.
I was just thinking. I remember reading. I'm not sure if this is canon anymore either, but there used to be a thing that said that most of Vader's fist, which was the 501st, was actually still clones. So maybe we're gonna be.
I don't. Yeah.
Maybe
I
we're
don't know if
gonna
that's
be.
canon anymore.
I don't know
Could
if
be
it is,
just
but it
canon.
is still called the 501st logo. The Imperial 501st logo is still a thing. That's even in Battlefront as well. That's in books, comics. That's in even the new comics. So I don't know if they're
Oh
still
shit! I'd love to
clones
see
or
that.
not. But if they
That'd
are,
be awesome.
um, then that would mean that the Empire would still have need for clones because clones their age accelerates really quickly, twice
Yeah.
as fast. So say for example the average, say a soldier is no longer efficient at the age of 40. That means that clones only have about 10 years of service life because they have to reach the actual age to be able to get into combat first, and then
Right.
so they would have to be still being made for Vader's fist to be actual clones, or they're clones that have had their aging slowed down, like Boba Fett.
On the topic of
More.
Boba Fett, we see him a couple of times in the Clone Wars as a young kid,
Yes.
as we got to see him in Episode 2. Now, do you think we get to see much more of his character in the Bad Batch,
I
even if it's
don't.
a bit like
I
Nah.
don't think
I
so
doubt it.
because he's being
Saw
raised by
Gerrera?
Bosk at this point.
Yeah.
Boosk.
So
See, I only just
unless
found out about that. I didn't realise that Bosk was the one that sort of raised him,
yeah.
mostly.
So with Bosk and Boba, so this might tie into the Bad Batch in terms of maybe Vader or the Empire needs some bounty hunters to track down the Bad Batch. I mean, Boba would be an ideal candidate for killing clones because he knows exactly how they work.
He would win too. That's why I just
Yeah,
don't
he
feel like
would win. He
he'd
would
be
win
guaranteed.
Yeah.
very easily. So
Maybe that's
even
where
though,
Fennec
sorry,
Shan comes in, because
good point.
she could also be a bounty hunter who was sent to maybe even find Omega, sort of.
True.
And
Is
she is
she
a
in the?
sniper. Yeah,
Yeah, but didn't she say in Mando that she killed Imperials as well? So I think she might
good point.
find out that Omega is a child and then tries to save her with the Bad Batch and kills Imperials.
Well, the only thing is, I think maybe even Boba would kill Imperials. I mean, if he's paid to, he'll do it. But I don't know if he would because it would affect his status with Vader. But
Well, that's the thing. He will do whatever he's paid to do. He don't like
he
Boba
doesn't
is
have an
one of those
allegiance. Yeah,
characters. He doesn't like align himself with anyone. He holds allegiance to no one besides, money.
that's
So
true.
And Boosk.
and boss.
Well, if there is bounty hunters that are going to show up in the Bad Batch, it's got to be someone like Boba. It's got to be. I mean, he is literally a clone. So to tie into a clone show, do you know what I mean? But then
Yeah.
means we'd have to see Bosk because Bosk is raising Boba at that
But,
point.
but Boba Fett is still a child, isn't he? At
Well,
this point.
he would be. So this is literally straight after Revenge of the Sith, isn't it? So
Yeah.
Boba would be about 13.
I mean, on the topic of other characters that we're going to see, we are for sure seeing Fennec Shand from The Mandalorian. Has
Possibly.
she appeared in no, because she was in the trailers for the show.
Oh yeah, she was.
Really?
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
she
What?
is. So
Hold
we
on, I
know we're
gotta
seeing
rewatch.
characters like her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
Jack, you
just sort
fucking
of
idiot.
Yeah, so I've
that
just
she was she a bounty hunter? I forget.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I came with the whole theory
But
Yeah.
that
that
would
she
also mean
helped the Bad Batch.
that would also
Then
mean
bitch,
that
I'm with that
she's
theory. I'm
older
fucking in
than
this.
Boba.
Yeah, she is.
Does that mean
No.
Boba has slow
No.
aging? I don't know.
Yeah, because he was an unaltered
Yeah,
clone,
he's
wasn't he?
unaltered, so I know he has slow aging, as in he has normal aging, but would he not have to have even slower? Because if you look in well, actually, that wouldn't even make sense either. Because in the Mandalorian, Boba looks a lot older than her. Then again,
Yeah,
he
but
has been
maybe
melted
that's
by a Sarlacc,
But
so
you
Yeah,
forget.
I think it's
he
just
was
good.
he was only in there for a time, but he was sort of quite melted.
yeah.
Yeah, because
He does.
you
He
got to
does
remember,
get melted quite a
Boba
bit.
was what? How old was he during Attack of the Clones? What, 6 maybe?
No, Attack of the Clones is 10, I think, or 11.
10.
Yeah,
Okay,
he was
so
like
what?
10, he was
10,
10 or
and that
11.
was what? 20 something BBY, wasn't it? So say he's like 35.
The Clone Wars lasted 3 years. Yeah, so I think in Empire Strikes Back, I think he's in his 30s. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
not. He doesn't. And obviously he was mangled as well. So I think that's probably
I
where the
think I
aging
remember
probably comes in.
working
And
out
his
how
face
old.
cream's probably not that good either.
Yeah, I think I remember working out how old he would have to be in The Mandalorian. I think he's either early 50s or late 40s. I can't really remember. Because The Mandalorian's 5 years or maybe even six now after the Empire's fallen.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure. But then again, I think we're getting too much into Boba. I think maybe we'll see
Well,
Fennec. Maybe they'll change the story. Maybe it won't be Bossk raising Boba. Maybe it'll be Fennec, and that's how it ties in. I don't know. But regarding the Bad Batch, how do we think they're going to go out? Do we think it's going to be a Vader situation, a Palpatine, a Battle of Kamino, maybe?
but they might not go
Blaze of
out. That's
Glory.
the thing. I think there's still a chance that they can squeeze them in somewhere for future reference as well.
Well, let's go
Because
with the
there's
going
gonna.
out theory. How would you have them
Okay.
go out?
Yeah, in a blaze of glory.
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
it'd be something mental, wouldn't it? Like it'd have to
It
take something
has
big
to.
to take him down.
Right.
Yeah, I
Either
mean,
trying to take
That's
down.
why I think Vader
Okay.
comes in.
Yeah, that
Because
might be
Yeah.
the best
one,
theory.
it's pretty good fan service, and two, like everyone knows how good the Bad Batch really are, so they would need someone of that sort of caliber to take them
Right.
out.
Because they even stated in the first episode, they're better than an army or they're as good as an army. So it's like, who can take out an army? Well, Papa
Vader.
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 Hmm.
well,
Or perhaps, they come toe to toe with the elite soldiers or even Vader's fist
I
at
guess it
some
would be.
I
point.
definitely think they're going to fight the elite soldiers, but I think they have to win that. Or maybe one of them suffers a
yeah.
fatal.
I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
think.
sort of where Crosshair's end will come, that they'll come toe to toe with the elite soldiers, take out most of the
Yeah.
conscriptors, but also Crosshair and a few others will survive before allowing them to escape and he dies.
Another
But why
theory
bring
I've
Then
Echo?
got.
You
they're
know what I
going
mean?
to
And
hit
why
the
bring Echo
stone with.
back to not give him an amazing death? Like, you can't just bring a character back and then have it be like, well, he just dies in firefight.
The
Yeah,
thing
he
is, in
gets EMP'd
shows,
and goes offline.
typically when they bring in a character that gets a bit too much screen time and is new, they typically die. So
Yeah,
you can see that off shows like The
Wrecker.
Walking Dead and stuff like that. But my theory with that Rampart guy, maybe he gets killed by Crosshair in a sort of like a mental breakdown situation where he's trying to fight with himself with the chip. And that's how
Yeah.
Tarkin eventually decides, actually, let's just go with people, not
Yeah.
clones. Maybe
Well,
I mean that could go any way, couldn't it? I mean, you could literally bring up 100 examples of how Tarkin's going to choose people over clones. I mean, because there's not really any good reason to choose people over clones, unless something
But
I mean,
bad happens.
I think
the
something.
difference between like B1 and B2 battle droids and the clones, like Rex have says before, he said in the Clone Wars before, is that there's the whole thing of good soldiers follow orders, which is what the inhibitor chip sort of allows, but they are, at the end of the day, people. Rex knew that, and they have to make their own decisions, and Hunter knows that. So if you want to follow an order and slaughter a whole school, or loads of orphans, or loads of innocent people, then do it if you're going to be loyal to your army. But is it moral? No. And I think Crosshair's going to have that dilemma. He's going to fight back against his really sort of heightened, activated inhibitor chip. So in the same way that Rex was shaking when Order 66 was, became
Yeah.
operational, and he was like, find fives, find him, that sort of stuff, and before firing at Ahsoka. Crosshair's going to have that, and I think, like you say, he's going to take out whatever that admiral's called.
That could be.
Rampart, yeah.
It could also be, when Rex kind of has Order 66 and he's shaking and he actually misses a couple of shots initially. It could be something like that where Crosshair's actually still trying to kill the Bad Batch, but he's fighting it, and he accidentally then kills one of the Imperial officers without meaning to do it. I think that could be quite an interesting tangent. And then it can be left in the air. Did he mean to shoot like the person to save the
Yeah,
Bad Batch, or
controversy. Yeah, the
was
controversy.
yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be
But
taken in as some sort of like prisoner in the same way that
Well,
Echo was by the separatists.
I
Not to be
personally,
experimented on, but have information extracted from.
well, Foster, don't you think that maybe in my eyes, the way I see it, I know it's a cartoon and stuff, but you can kind of, to me, it feels like Tarkin and that Rampart guy have already decided that they don't want clones anymore. They just need the reason.
Yeah.
Right? So to get out of the
Yeah, I
contract with Camino, they just need a reason. So do you reckon they could even frame the clones? As in, do something
I
and then
think they
frame them?
could, yeah.
Oh
But
yeah,
as
it's
we know,
already
like
set up for
Tarkin's
that.
never really been a big fan of the Jedi or much to do with the Republic, and so I don't think he's ever really liked the clones. So I think you're right. Now it's sort of looking
Where
for a reason to get rid of the clones and bring in the conscriptors.
does anyone know actually where Tarkin came from? As in, not the planet he came from, but like obviously we know he's in the Empire, we know he's in a show, but what was he doing while the Republic was going on? What was he? Was he
like a
was he a
governor?
separatist or something?
No,
No, he
no,
was a
because
He
Republic.
was
they
a-
rescued
he was an
him from the
officer.
Citadel.
No,
Yeah.
he was
Republic.
he worked for the
Part of the
Republic. He
Republic.
was a Republic. He
Yeah,
wasn't a governor. He
Admiral,
was
wasn't he?
something else.
Admiral,
I
right?
think he was.
Jack, remember the episode where Echo died in the Citadel?
Yeah, and what's his name?
They
Yeah.
rescued Tarkin from the Citadel.
Yeah. I think I remember that was in season 7, wasn't it? Where Wrecker got blown
No,
up.
it was like season
wait.
4.
Season like 3 or 4.
Really?
This
Oh
was
yeah,
early on.
because he was a young one. Yeah, he was a young version, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
the Citadel where Echo died, they rescued him and the small little Jedi guy.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
Midget
Yeah.
Jedi.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're on about. Yeah.
Not green. Not Yoda.
Is that when a
But
council member died?
Yeah.
Pink skin Yoda.
Yeah.
so I
Orange
don't.
Yoda.
The thing is, I don't think we're going to see a lot more Jedi because sort of. It's like Order 60. It reduces the impact of Order 66 if so many survived. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
if so many survived, why didn't they just band together? But no.
Well, I would have
it's-
liked to see more Jedi deaths. I mean, I know we saw that already.
yeah, I
but-
would like to see him maybe hunt down a few, but
I think, Jack, the answer to that is actually in the Vader comics that are out at the moment.
Yeah.
It's that because obviously at the moment Vader is hunting down the last remaining threat of Jedi, but then after that, Palpatine kind of recalls him because he doesn't see the Jedi that are left as a threat, so he's only taken out the kind of Jedi that, if they did form together, could actually make a difference. But at the end of the day, Palpatine was like, oh, a couple of Jedi Knights and some apprentices aren't going to do shit against my Empire, so he kind of leaves it at that. So that's where the rest of if they do meet a couple of Jedi, I think that's where it could come in.
so what? It's kind of like a
Man,
situation
imagine
as
being left
in
behind.
we're not
like
gonna
shit.
we're not gonna go out and actually look for some Jedi, but if we stumble across them, then we will kill them.
So it was, they would kill them because basically Darth Vader was going off on a tangent, just killing every Jedi. But Palpatine had kind of like, he would only send Vader if he saw that Jedi as potentially posing a threat. So there were Jedi left over that weren't of a high power or deemed as a threat by Palpatine. So they were only kind of Jedi Knights, etc.
Yeah,
Scrubs
like Broom Boy from The Last Jedi. who
Yeah,
survived.
pretty much.
Well, he wouldn't have even been
Don't
born
talk
at that
about
point, would he?
Broom
But
Boy. Don't talk about Broom Boy. I think that Broom was
He was so
magnetic.
shit.
I
He wasn't
think
even worth hunting down.
I think he was a clone of Saw's Bandim, that little kid that Anakin
Shut
killed.
up.
I reckon that was Omega.
Saul Guerrera. Saul, though.
We've got about another 5 minutes or so we've got another. We can go into 2 parts, but we've got 5 minutes to talk about another topic if anyone wants to chime in on something.
Before we do that, I
Salty,
think
yeah.
I'm all up for a second part if you boys want.
I'm gonna head out after this.
Yeah, I'm about to head
Dinner.
out. I wanted to. This is gonna be completely off topic from the Bad Batch, but I just wanted to kind of get into the conversation.
Hell yeah.
So, we all agree that the sequel series or the sequel trilogy was garbage, right?
Right.
Goofy, but
It's not great.
But like, what? Let's talk about specifically like what made it bad and what could have made it good. You know.
I feel like we'll need at least 3 episodes.
We're gonna
of
need
podcast to talk about
like
it.
3 hours for this. I mean, we could literally have a podcast why the Last Jedi is bad.
2 parts
Great.
will not fill enough. But I tell you what, if you want to have like a proper, not a conversation, but obviously because this guy's already done it, check out a YouTube channel called Mauler. That's Mauler,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's done a load of criticism videos on the sequel trilogy and other Star Wars films aside, and he really
They
delves
are
deep
in
into
depth.
why they
Yeah.
are so bad.
Well,
So check out that
Gotcha.
channel.
Foster,
Lots
I'll
of
give you
gotcha
something.
moments.
I genuinely do like The Force Awakens. I think The Force Awakens is all right. It is a copy of A New Hope, but
Okay.
there is
As a
something I would
setup for a
change.
trilogy.
Yeah, there is something I would change, and I think it would have made the following films better. Rey
Plenty of
should
things I would
not
have fucking
have beaten
changed.
Kylo at the end. Kylo should have beaten Rey, but maybe maybe he beats her, the ground cracks, then he can no longer get to her, and then they have to get to their ships or whatever.
She escapes.
Rey in the next film should have met Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker should have said something. I don't know. Something happened. This is why I'm here. I'm not actually giving up. I'm sort of masking myself in the Force because I'm causing problems everywhere I go. There's some sort of carnage or something. I don't know how you describe it. I can't really explain in 5 minutes. He ends up training Rey. Him and Rey go and fight the First Order. Somehow Luke has to sacrifice himself for Rey or for someone.
Ben Kenobi.
Anyway, skip a bunch of shit. We end up in the Rise of Skywalker. And at the end of the film, where they're fighting Palpatine, I think that Rey should have died. Kylo should have killed Palpatine because he's a descendant of Vader, and it would have made
Oh, Anakin, yeah.
it would have made the
sacrifice.
Anakin arc still make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. If you want one pinpoint issue to why the sequel trilogy is bad, just one for 30 seconds, it's because they ruined Anakin's arc. The entire
I am
6
so
movies were
glad you
ruined
brought that up.
by just that.
I've heard so many people say, "Oh, Rey is the new chosen one," or in another universe, George Lucas wanted Leia to be the chosen one. And right, okay, but those are two different things. But as a standard, to get down to it, the title of the chosen one cannot just be handed down over generations, right? Bringing
Right.
balance to the Force was done by Anakin Skywalker. He did fulfill the prophecy despite falling to the dark side for a great time. Rey is not the chosen one in this new saga. Okay. To be honest, this new trilogy, I think it shouldn't have existed in its form that it did. It did ruin, like you say, Anakin's arc. It created so many plot holes, and it did it just because a lot of the stuff that it did was just because it looked pretty.
I will
Go
say
ahead, make her
this.
the most powerful Jedi, but don't bring the Emperor back. Make him unrelated,
I
completely
will
unrelated.
say this: if you took the three movies, and the other movies didn't exist, 1 to 6 didn't exist, and they were just standalone films, and there was no lore behind it, they would actually be all right. It's just because what they destroyed.
They're good
That's
action. They're good.
The arc.
I don't even want
Yeah.
to say they're good action movies. They're movies that have good action, but with everything else that substantiates
shit, I
it,
don't.
like they're terrible with handling the lore, like or anything, right the way down to lightsaber combat. Yes, the Order hasn't existed for a while, but Kylo should be better at fighting, and he should be more powerful than he
trained by
is,
Luke.
even in
You would
Episode
think,
7.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there are so many things, just the
Especially-
basic principles of
especially-
what constitutes a Star Wars movie that these films just failed at portraying.
Could you imagine having the DNA of Anakin Skywalker, right? Having the DNA of Anakin Skywalker, being trained by Luke Skywalker, being also trained by technically Palpatine because he's being trained by Snoke. So he's being trained by Palpatine and Luke, two of the most powerful people at the time, and he gets fucking bitched over by Rey. Like,
But then again,
Well, I mean,
It's just so
I think
silly.
this is where
it's very hard to beat a Mary Sue in any case. Okay, so I feel
If
for
they-
it. I really do.
They made us
This is-
Superman in Star Wars, and they needed a way
Right.
to defeat Superman, so they gave him a damn green rock. that
this
can
is
shoot
also a
him.
problem that I think. I think if you look at the films, it's backwards in the way that Rey and Kylo's power should have been if they want Rey to be the one that ultimately finishes it. Because in the last film, Kylo seems a bit more like he's been buffed a little bit, like he's had a little bit of a power boost. And in number 8, in The Last Jedi, they're kind of even. But in the first one, it's like Rey beats him. It should have been flipped the other way around. So it should have been Kylo's more powerful clearly in Episode 7, and then potentially Rey could have been more powerful in Episode 9.
I feel
I will
like
say
as
that
well.
as, like I don't like any of the characters. I actively despise pretty much everything that the sequel
I liked
shows to
Poe.
me in any
I felt
form,
like Poe.
anything at all.
I
I liked the only thing that the sequels did was create that potential. There was potential there for better characters. Poe could have been a good character. Kylo could have been a good character. The only really good thing that came out of it, and this is like not objectively good, just compared to the rest of it, is Adam
Rose.
Driver. Adam
Oh
Adam
yeah,
Driver.
yeah. Kylo Ren.
He's,
I mean,
he's
Yeah.
enormous. He's a fantastic actor, but my God, he could have done so much better
Right,
if they actually had
Foster.
a good script.
Got to stop you there. I mean, I agree with Adam Driver. I think he was one of them characters that you sort of hate in episode 7, but then love in episode 9. Anyway, conclusion: Bad Batch good. Last Jedi shit. Thank you for watching, and see us in the next
Great
one.
conclusion.